So let's see how to install the new expensive piece. Check that the threads on the nut for the big pin was easy in and out. Also checked it in the top of the new crane pillar just to ensure I didn't have any problems. It came with a new lower pin. I can see that's because the machine part of the ears is connected to the pin, so we did some measurements and thinking about how to install, because we had discussed installing it while the crane is hanging on its side here, and that's the way we were gonna attack it. It turned out great. So we realized we wanted to put it up a little higher before installation to get a little more clearance for things, and we also needed to move it a little further out on the load gate to give us clearing for the turning cylinders on the turning motors that we are gonna install. Here we had also had to fold the grapple out so it wouldn't be stuck to the ground as you were lifting, so it could still have support in the middle section, like the knee joint, or if this is the hip joint. And we had tried going there and see how it would be possible with still having the pallet underneath it, but that didn't work because it would interfere with the tracks and the wheels. So we lifted it down directly on the forks, reused some rubber things that came with it when it was secured to the pallet underneath, and then some bolts in some of the holes to stop it sliding. And we would also have to tilt it forward quite a bit because the crane arm is leaning to be able to align it, so we had that strap to secure it from sliding forward. Hooked the hose over it because it's gonna sit on that side, and some careful maneuvering. Eventually we were very close in line. Looked at fitting one of the shims, and we could start getting the pin in, just double checking it all looked good, that the shim didn't move, and it needed a little gentle tapping to start moving, but went in fairly easy. And then we needed to slide it over to be able to fit some shims on the other side, and came up with the thought about putting the strap all the way around it, a cargo strap, and just cranking it, and it moved very nicely. We could put some shims in there, the old one, and I had been able to get a couple of more ones, so got a good fit here. Had a little screwdriver, and seeing that none of the shims moved as we were able to secure it all the way in. Hung the gas valves over, or gas shock absorbers, hydraulic shock absorbers over on the crane pillar. And now it was time to do the actual lift. We moved a few straps and hoses around to give us some clearance. And the old POC line does an amazing job at lifting heavy things. And it started going up. I see here that there was a little bit of tension on some of the hoses, but I don't think it was to the point that anything got damaged. Anything had arranged the machine so that I could slowly back up, because it only has pedals, no levers on the pedals as some machines today have. But if you reach down with your fingers and pull the pedals up, you can move super slowly on the tracks. With it up close to its final position, we realized that the base needs to be turned. One option would have been to get the machine started, but since they're empty, no hydraulic fluid in them, I didn't really want to start trying to get it to spin by using the machine. Had put a strap secured to the gate and that chain block to pull it on this side to gently twist the bottom section of it. and when it was straight it was a little bit of maneuvering back and forth to find some bolt holes lining up, and we could start securing a couple of bolts and unhook the excavator. And with that done, well, we tightened down the corner bolts and took a break, and then back out again. That horseshoe to relieve the tension on the hydraulic hoses was put in place. The shock clocks are also held in place with the same bolts, so that wasn't very tricky. Then some clamps holding some of the hoses and lifting up that big clamp holding a bunch of hoses, securing it. Yeah, another clamp for the hose on the other side. We put all bolts in place. I missed video where we lifted because it's like a gas shock thing mounted to the other side of the crane base here also, that I missed. Then we're gonna look at installing the hydraulic cylinder, and since this pillar has a brace on it, we needed to lift it quite high to be able to get the cylinder into the mount, and it turned out the tractor did not lift high enough, so we had the bright idea to start the machine and just use the machine's hydraulics to pull the cylinder back in. So while waiting for the heater to go, we installed the fittings on the end of the turning cylinders, and here I'm tightening up the two bolts holding that other shock clock, I think it is. And as I tried pulling the cylinder in, it just wouldn't go. I think it's only a one-way valve or something, so it just relies on the gravity to bring it down. So we ended up using the trusty POC line again and lifting it high enough to swing it in, and that might be something to think about if you find this video and use this as a guide to doing this job yourself, that this cylinder will not pull in on itself. Had I known that, I would probably have secured it with a luggage strap of some kind, as it was unmounted too, because it had fallen out a little longer since it has been sitting for a few days, a week. And then we tightened up the nuts securing the upper and lower pins, and that's pretty much where we're at. Well, I've done a little more towards the end of the video, but we spent some time cleaning up in the garage, getting some of the scrap metal, as I think most of it will end up as. We did put this together, ground away a little of the damage inside it, and then just loosely tightened things up to keep it together. Then it was time to give the Skoda some love with the oil change. So the pan underneath, or the protection, plastic protection, was removed, and then the drain plug, lifted off that engine cover. And I just love this car. This is my second oil change, and I can't be happier. It's so easy access to the oil filter, where on many cars it's a big hassle. So new O-ring for the cap, new oil filter, you just put it down there and tighten it back up. So great. All cars should be forced to have the oil filter in that position. Put some plugs on the cylinders just in case there is a little oil left in some of them. And then it was placed on the pallet next to the other broken part for now. Did grease all the joints that had been apart. We'll also grease the base more as we have it started, and can move it around before I mount the central lubing to that one. I remounted the central lubing to the other points, and also fitted a new luggage strap here that holds the protection pipe in place. That was the old solution. Getting access to the upper part was easier to stand on a pallet and work from that platform. So a few more things: need to torque all the bolts holding the crane base, but gonna borrow a tool for that. Haven't filled oil. I want to add a magnetic drain plug to it, and the drain plug situation is a little different. It's no hose anymore on this one. It has a actual plug on the bottom on one side and a fill hole, and then the platforms for stepping on the cylinders needs to be mounted and central lubing. So there's a little left, but have had good progress the last few days.